Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about, does the CCA or the CCS have an apprentice status when you first get it? If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, a medical coder. Okay guys, so with the apprentice status on the American Health Information Management Association credentials, the CCA or the CCS, does this apply to them? No. The apprentice status is an AAPC or the American Academy of Professional Coder thing. A lot of people get confused when they start doing their research about medical coding, and I've been getting this question a lot. That's why I decided to do the video. A lot of people will ask, does the CCA or the CCS come with an apprentice status when you first get it? No, because AAPC has designed their credentials, because AAPC and Ahima are two different organizations, right? Ahima is a non-profit organization. AAPC is a for-profit organization. So what they did with their flagship credential, which is the CPC or the Certified Professional Coder, if you have no experience, with the first 2 years, they will attach an apprentice status. So you will be a CPCA in this first 2 years that you have your medical coding credential. Now, the way to remove the apprentice status is that you work in the field actually as a medical coder, okay, in that capacity. So once you get your 2 years in, you can submit your letter that you get from your employer. You submit it into AAPC, and they will go through and verify and remove the apprentice status, and you will be a full-fledged CPC. Now, because remember, AAPC is a business, they have had this way of, okay, we can speed up this 2-year time commitment. If you do not want to be a CPCA for 2 years, you can speed it up by purchasing practicode. Practicode is an educational product, and basically it's a group of records. I believe it's 600 records, 660 or 600 records, and this is not multiple choice. These are real world redacted records. So there's no private information on these. You're basically going through and coding them, and this 600 plus records is what they consider, AAPC considers what a brand new coder would be coding in 1 year. Okay, so once you completed all of this, they will count that as 1 year of work experience. Now listen carefully. They consider it as 1 year work experience. It does not go on your resume as 1 year of work experience, because employers already know what practicode is, okay? So don't think that you can try to put this down as an internship or an externship. Don't think that you can put this down as work experience, because it is not. And you do not want to start off your relationship with your with your employer on a lie, based on a lie, because they're going to know this is not work experience. It's what AAPC considers 1 year of work experience. So instead of a 2-year time commitment, you'll be down to a 1 year time commitment. Now, if you go through a certain AAPC approved program, right? Some of the colleges have this, where if you go through their program and it's approved by AAPC, and you also purchase practicode, once you complete practicode, you will be a full-fledged CPC credential holder. Okay, so there will be no 2-year time commitment, 2-year waiting period to get that apprentice status taken off. You'll be a CPC right away. But again, that is on AAPC. Now, even if you do all of that, you go through an approved AAPC program, if you purchase practicode and you get that, you complete it, so that way you get your full-fledged CPC, this also doesn't count that, okay, now all of a sudden you have experience, okay? So some people find themselves in this really weird spot of that they, did all these things and now they still don't have a job, and it's been over a year since they got their credential. Well, sometimes this happens because, people are not looking hard enough, or even if they are looking, their resume looks terrible, meaning that it's a 3 or 4 or 5 page resume, like the ones I see on LinkedIn. 3 or 4 page resume, and not detailing their skills that they learned in the school, but rather everything else that they did at their previous work place. So that's something that you have to really keep in mind. How you present yourself to employers is what's going to get them to call you back. And it doesn't matter that you don't have experience, okay? So you can get a job whether you have a CPCA or not, all right? It really all depends on the individual. I write resumes, so I know. Trust me, I've written them for plenty of CPCAs, and they do get jobs. So it really all depends on where you're applying. So yes, that is what, so everybody should know that. Hopefully it's clear here. The CCA, the Certified Coding Associate, and the CCS, the Certified Coding Specialist, both with the American Health Information Management Association, do not have an apprentice status attached to those credentials at all. That is an AAPC thing altogether. When you take the CCA or the CCS, or the CCSP, which is the Certified Coding Specialist Physician-based, and that is all outpatient coding. But when you take any of these and you go to Pearson VUE, and if they're not in a beta period, meaning that a certain number of people have to take the test before they release the scores, which would be completely miserable to be taking a test when they're having a beta period. But if they don't have a beta period, what they do is as soon as you get done and you submit your test, you will be escorted out of the test room by the Pearson VUE staff, because you have to raise your hand and wait for them to come and collect you. Then you go and they will give you your score. They will print out your score right then and there, so you will know if you passed or failed your test. You will know right on the spot. So while that's great, it can also be very nerve-wracking, because you're like, oh my gosh, as soon as you hit that final button to submit your test, you're just like, oh, you know, I'm gonna know now. It's time for me to know. So yes, that is something that you have to know. That's a great thing about Ahima, is that they don't have that extra added thing of, you know, oh, we have an apprentice status on our credentials. They do not have that. Ahima does not have that. Ahima, again, is a nonprofit organization. So they're not about all of these things, about these added fees and things like that, or these other things. They do have classes and things like that on their website. You have to go to the Ahima store. A lot of people struggle with the Ahima website because they're like, where do I go? There's a tab for the Ahima store, and you just click there, and that's where you'll see all of the classes that they offer and things like that. So that way you can, if you want to get your education through Ahima, you certainly can. And with Ahima, you're going to know right away if you passed. You're going to have your credential full-fledged right then and there if you pass. And you have a 2-year reporting period. So you have 2 years from the time you get your certification to report your CEUs based on whatever credential you have. If you have one of the degree designations, the RHIA or the RHIT, it is 30 CEUs for one, okay? If you have just a medical coding certification, the CCA, CCS, or the CCSP, if you have just one, it is 20 CEUs. So it does go up as you add on a different credential, okay? So just keep that in mind, and you can see all of that information on the Ahima website. It's a lot of these questions can be answered directly going to the Ahima website. So I'm going to do this video and another video that was inspired by a viewer who was asking these questions, and I told her on her second question to go to the Ahima website, because it is better to get it from the source, and you will get the most up-to-date, okay? Because remember, guys, these videos live on in perpetuity. So unless you're watching, you know, most current video, you know, these things could always change. So something you ought to know. And what else can I say about these credentials? You know, even with and to go to AAPC and you have the apprentice status on your credential, if you get the CPC, there's really no shame in it, guys. It's just saying that you're brand new. That's all it is. And so when you have that, don't be ashamed. We were all brand new coders at one time. There was one other viewer that I had here a while back, and she was starting her own channel, and she was studying for her CCS, and she kept after me to look at her channel. And so I finally said, okay, I don't like to look at other YouTubers that are medical coders because I like my content to stay clean. I don't want anybody else in my head. I don't want nothing. These are all my ideas, and this is all my point of view, and this is all my sharing and things like that. But she kept after me to check out her channel, so I did. And what was the first thing that happened? She says, oh, I'm sitting for my CCSA. And I told her, I was like, there's no such thing as a CCSA. And she's like, well, I don't know everything. And I'm like, okay, see, this is why I don't go to other YouTubers that are medical coders, because they want to get feisty. The reason that I had to tell her right away was because, and normally, I mean, I don't care what you say, you know, but you have to be very careful when it comes to talking about these credentials, and especially if you don't know what you're talking about, because then people hear it, and then I'm the one who gets the questions. I'm the one who gets asked, you know, later on, oh, is this right? Is this right? No, guys. So that's why I'm like, you know, I had to tell her right away. So she still left it up. I was like, okay, you know, and that's what people are going to see, because not everybody reads the comments either. So that's another thing too. I know there's a lot of people who do read the comments, and I know there's people who don't comment, you know, but they'll let me know some other way, you know, and that's fine. You know, but just so you guys know that sometimes when people are on these channels, and especially if they're students or in the brand new, like that lady was, you know, not everything that they're going to be putting out is actually correct. And one of the other things, of course, was all the tabbing. And I'm like, you can't tab, especially when you go in to take a CCA or a CCS or CCSP. These books are not meant to be tabbed, but you can use the tabs that come with the book. So the AMA CPT Professional Edition does come with its own tabs. Now, I've talked about this on many episodes. I don't believe in tabs, guys. I will never believe in tabs. I've done a few videos demonstrating how to put the tabs on the CPT manual, but only because at you all's behest, because I get that request constantly. And so I said, okay, well, if you're going to tab, you may as well do it right, you know. But to me, if you are practicing with your books like you're supposed to, you are certainly not going to have that issue of not knowing where to go in the book. All right. So that's just something you got to know. You know, with these exams, for the most part, all of them, the CPC, the CCS, and the CCSP are all 4-hour exams. The CCA is the only one that is a 2-hour exam. Now, do not let its size fool you guys. Do not let its size fool you. Those 2 hours go by quick, and you have to be prepared, and you've got to be ready, and you've got to be able to answer quick. Okay, so whether you get the CCA or you get the CCS or you get the CCSP, employers are going to be happy because you're certified in medical coding. All right. It's very frustrating when I hear from people who think that, oh, nobody wants to ask for the CCA. They do, guys, they do. But a lot of times people are not looking under the right title. Okay. Because a lot of times people want to put in medical coder rather than putting in health information tech, medical records technician, something along those lines, because every place is going to call medical coders a different name. Sometimes they put them HIM analyst 1, HIM analyst 1. And so if you don't know, you know, you're not putting that in, then you're going to miss out on what company is asking for what credential. Okay. So that's just something that you all ought to know. You may not see it, but they are asking for that credential. And I had the CCA for over 13 years. That was the one credential that I did carry for the longest time. And then in 2021, I had to change. So I had to put that credential to bed. Did I want to? No. I stubbornly held on to it, but I had to put it to bed. And so I got the CCSP. And then in the fall, or early winter rather, because it was in November, I got my CCS, and that is the Mastery Medical Coding Certification. So if you get that and you're brand new to the field, hey, that's great. That means you've gotten some pretty fantastical training, or you're just a really good test taker. But I am more inclined to believe the first one, where you know you got some really good training, because it is a very hard exam to pass. It's not easy. You know, those first time test taker pass rates are fairly low, considering that, you know, I mean, I think a couple of years ago it was at 45%. I mean, that's how low it is. And that's a pretty high bar when you are thinking about taking that, right out of the gate. And that's your very first exam in medical coding. That's a lot. And then sometimes when people don't pass, they get so disappointed. And it's because you really don't understand what these credentials are. I mean, if you fail it the first time, it's because it is the mastery. It's not because it's an easy test. I mean, it is far from an easy test. I tell you guys, 2 days even after that test, I was still exhausted, because you're on such an emotional roller coaster when you take these tests. And it had been a long time coming when I took my CCS exam. But I'm really glad that I took it. And I'm currently the only coder in my hospital who has it. Everybody else has a CPC. And only because at my facility, the way that the story goes was that none of the coders were certified. Before I got here, none of them were. And the coding supervisor, she pushed everybody to get their certifications. So she got everybody involved with AAPC because that's what she had. And she's like, you guys really need to get on here and start doing it. So they studied all together, and then some people passed it and some people didn't. And then some people had to retake the test again. And so that was how everybody ended up being with AAPC. So when I got there, just a couple of years afterward, and they were like, well, why don't you go with AAPC? And I said, I have no reason to go with AAPC because I already have the CCA. Well, why don't you want to be like us? It's not that I don't want to be like y'all. It's just that the CCA says I can code an inpatient and outpatient. If I got the CPC, this only says to employers that I can only code in the outpatient setting. So there's a difference there, And again, it's not that I've never been one to be peer pressured into, you need to be like us, and we're all the same. And no, you can be just as talented having a CCA, And now, again, like I said, I'm the only one who holds a CCS in my hospital. So it's nice, but I always do encourage other people, if you want to step up and get that CCS, that'd be great too, because it's better, because it shows that there's more diversity that the person can do, right? More diversity in coding settings, as far as being able to code for inpatient and also be able to code for outpatient. All of the inpatient coders, though, at my facility, they're all CPCs. So, it doesn't mean that just because you have a CPC doesn't mean that you can't code for inpatient, but your credential just says that you're certified in outpatient coding, which means that outpatient. But they were able to be hired on and trained on the job. So, there's a difference there. When you're trained on the job, I think it does kind of help, especially when you get that real world practical type of hands-on training. It does help. But you can still learn it from a book, and you can still be just as smart as somebody who has had years of experience learning from a book. It really all takes just a commitment to your studies. So yeah, that's my episode for today. But I would really encourage you guys to the simple questions when it comes to the specific credentials, when it comes to the associations themselves. You guys really, really, really need to go to the associations themselves and get that question answered directly with them. Because again, they're going to have the most latest and greatest updated information better than I can. Okay, because people ask me about AAPC. I have nothing to do with AAPC. They don't pay me to talk about them. I'm not a person. I'm not employed by them at all, But what I am committed to is medical coders. And so if I know that they have something that's good for coders, obviously I'm going to speak up and say, hey, this is really great. Like I always talk about their CPC study guide that I even recommend for Ahima test takers. Whether you're taking the CCS, the CCA, or the CCSP, I still recommend to study with the CPC study guide because it's covering that CPT manual and all the outpatient coding. So like I said, it's fantastic. It's a really great digestible book that is not huge, but it packs a punch because it does condense a lot of things into this book, and this book isn't so huge, and it's just a really good practice book to begin with. That's just my opinion. But yeah, again, it really all depends on who you're going through. You only need to be certified through one, folks, especially my brand new people. I will always say this about credentials. When you are brand new, you should really only have one credential for the first 2 years. If that would be the biggest bit of advice that I can share with all of you, looking to get into this field, you only need one. Having a bunch of other credentials is not going to get you hired faster. I know. I'm the one who hears from people who have 4 or 5 credentials who have no idea how they're going to be able to maintain them because they can't even get a job. But they got all of these credentials because their teacher told them to get it. And they said, oh yeah, you're going to be hired. You're going to make so much more money because you have so many other credentials. If you look at the job listings, not one time have I ever seen any job listing say candidate must have multiple credentials to get this job. Not one time. Not once. All I have ever seen them say is candidate must be certified through one of the associations, Ahima or AAPC, must possess, and then they'll list all the ones that they're looking for, the credentials. Must possess one of these. All you need is one. And having multiple credentials when you're brand new. Please hear me when I say when you are brand new. When you are brand new and you don't have the experience to back those up, it's a big difference between somebody who has years of experience, who has multiple credentials, because it's something different, and it's something different from each one of these credentials is not the same, okay? That says something different about that person. When I see a person with a whole list of credentials after their name, it does nothing. It does not impress me. It does not impress me. When I get impressed is when I find out about the person's knowledge. That's when I'm impressed. But until then, I'm not impressed by all the alphabet and all the letters. It does nothing. Because I've seen people with an alphabet after their name who struggle with basic concepts in medical coding. I've seen it. Okay. And I've seen people with a whole string of credentials who are really smart. It really all depends on the individual, but I would never recommend for brand new medical coders who still have a CPCA to have 4 or 5 or 6 other credentials after their name, guys. It's just too much. And all those credentials, those CEUs that you got to report to, and then after a while you have to get into the certain ones and only certain vendors, and it's too much, guys. Make it easy on yourselves. Concentrate on learning in the first 2 years. Spend your money on that. Spend your money on learning, not sinking your money into all these credentials that it's not going to get you more money. I'm just saying. So, with that said, please remember on Friday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing my once a month live, and it'll be St. Patrick's Day. So Friday, the 17th of March, be sure to tune in, and I will be here, and I will see y'all then. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.